Peace everyone, Unmask Art here, and welcome back to another episode of Peaceful Pastels. Hope you're having a wonderful day. In today's episode, we are going to be creating some beautiful mountains atop a morning sky. The colors we'll be using today are from the Season 1 Starter Pack. You can get your starter pack by using the link in the video description. So before we get started, let me first share the viewer submission from the last episode of Peaceful Pastels. Excellent work, Katie. Thank you so much for sharing. Remember, for your chance to get selected for the viewer submission, just tag your work with the hashtag Peaceful Pastels. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so the first color we are going to be using is cyan, and we're going to be creating the sky in which our mountains are going to be sitting on. So what I'm going to do here is use my cyan color to kind of create an oval shape around the paper. So imagine kind of an oval right in the middle, and that's where our mountains are going to be. So just kind of imagine an oval shape there, and I'm just going to apply this color around the outer edge of that oval, something like this. Don't be afraid to use this color either. Be very generous with it. We want to cover up the paper completely. Doesn't take a lot of pressure with the pastel either. And also, you don't have to ever work as fast as I work. You can pause the video and take your time, enjoy the process. There we go. That's a pretty good coverage. And we're going to move on to our next color, which is going to be the powder blue color. I'm just going to grab the powder blue. I'm going to kind of work into that oval shape a little bit more. So our oval is going to get quite a bit smaller. Something like that. And work the powder blue over top of the cyan a little bit to give a nice transition between those two colors. There we go. Nice oval shape. And now we're going to add a new color here, and that's going to be the light cobalt. Now we're only going to apply the light cobalt in the corners, and it's going to give our sky just a little bit more drama. And we're going to create somewhat of a morning sky, a little bit, maybe a late morning sky. So we're going to add a touch of yellow in there too, just to bring in some nice warmth from the sun. And this cobalt brings us a little bit of purple tone to the edges of our sky and just creates a little bit more drama. And sunrises tend to be a little bit more dramatic in color. So just right around the edges there. And now we're going to just grab our white and we're going to fill in that gap right there in the middle. We don't want to leave it without pastel. So we're just going to fill in that oval shape right into the powder blue. Just mix that white right in there. Kind of take it across the horizon a little bit, just like this, right through the middle of the page. And then down here a little bit. There we go. And now just a touch of the zinc yellow. Very, very little zinc yellow. So that when we blend it out, our sky just has a tiny, tiny bit of the sun showing. It's going to give it that subtle sunrise feel. Now before I blend that out, I'm going to just add a little bit of white over top of that zinc yellow, just so it's not too strong. And you want to be careful with that zinc yellow because it's a really, really bright color, and you don't want to mix it too much with the blue because you're going to get a green sky. And I'm not sure if I've ever seen a green sunrise before. There we go. All right, so now it's time to start blending out and see how our colors lay down. Okay, so with the blender here, I'm going to start in the lighter colors first. So I'm going to start right in the center where we added the white, some of that zinc yellow. And I'm just going to gently smooth it out and then work my way into the powder blue and the cobalt and the cyan. Now, one of the things that I want to mention about the sponges on these little blending tools is that they are totally reusable and they're simple to clean. You can simply just use some warm water and soap and clean the pastel right out of them, and then of course let them dry before you use them again. But they are very easy to clean, and in some cases you can just wipe them on a paper towel and not even worry about the soap and water. That's what I did with this sponge. This is the same sponge from the first episode. Since we're using similar colors, I didn't think it was necessary to clean it. Now, if you are struggling a little bit getting your pastels to look soft on your paper, it's not an issue with the blender, it's just an issue with the amount of pastel on the paper. So sometimes it takes 2 or 3 applications of the pastels to really get them looking soft. So don't let that frustrate you. It just means you need to add a little bit more pastel to your paper. I generally try to do it in a single layer, but it doesn't always work out like that. So even in my case, I'm going to have to go back and add another layer of color. It's always good to go back anyways and add, a little bit of extra color just to get everything nice and smooth. Make sure the paper's covered really, really well, and you'll get a really soft sky. And that's the real secret of it. It's just more layers. Those second and third layers will make a really big difference in the softness. All right, now I'm starting to move into the cyan color a little bit. And you'll notice that I'm kind of blending in the shape of the oval that we created here, and it just gives it a nice glowing effect. It kind of looks like the sun is coming from here and just lighting up the page. There we go. Sometimes those darker colors blend a little bit easier than the light ones. So after I finish blending this out, I'm going to add a little bit more white, maybe a touch more yellow, and then some of the powder blue, a little bit more of the cyan as well, and just get a bit more pastel on my paper here. Alright, that does it for the first layer and the first blending. So let's go ahead and add a little bit more color to the paper. So the first color I'm going to use is just white. So I'm going to lighten up the center of the page a little bit. Just apply a nice generous amount of white. Now if the white completely removes your yellow, then I'd recommend adding a little bit more to it. But you don't have to if you don't want to. You could also throw in a little bit of pink if you have that color. Maybe a touch of red. Some nice lavender. Lavender wouldn't be a bad color choice. There we go. Now the center is definitely covered with pastel. I'm going to set that white aside, and I'm just going to grab my zinc yellow, add a few little touches right up at the top there, just a tiny bit, not a lot. And then I'm going to grab the powder blue, reapply that right along the edge of the white and into the cyan. Very gently. There we go. Same thing on the top. And then I'm going to grab the cyan. I think I'm going to bring the blue in just a little bit. So I'm going to bring the cyan over top of the powder blue. And then when we blend it out, it'll give us a nice transition between those two colors. So just really, really gently over top of that powder blue there. There. Now we're ready to blend it out again. So I'm just going to take my little blender, and what I'm going to do here is, since the back side of the sponge is clean, I'm just going to take it off of my blending knife here and flip it over and use the clean side so that I can blend the center part without getting my dark blues into the center. So there we go. It's always best to start blending the lightest colors first, because you don't want to bring the darker colors in where you intend it to be light. So always start with the light colors first. And in fact, you can use this side for the light colors, and then you can always flip the sponge back over and use it to blend into the blues, into your darker colors and all of that. Make sure you get that white and powder blue mixing right there at the edge. Make that transition nice and soft. and blend it for as long as you want until you get the result you're looking for. I'm just looking for something nice and soft and delicate, smooth sky. There we go. Now I'm going to move into the powder blue and the cyan and kind of make that transition nice and soft as well. Get those colors mixing together. Use nice long movements. Use your whole arm when moving the blender across the paper. And don't just do your wrist like this, or you'll get kind of uneven look to the sky. So use full motion. Use your whole arm, your whole shoulder. That's how you get the smooth lines all the way across the page. Now up here in the top, you don't have to worry too much if you get some of the lighter colors streaking across the paper, because those are just going to look like clouds in the end. So don't worry about those streaks. You can keep blending more and more to get rid of them if you want, but in the end they're just going to look like clouds. And speaking of clouds, now that you've successfully completed episode 1's project, you should be able to add a few nice little clouds in there if you want. I'm going to leave my sky cloudless this time though. Just focus on the mountains. Alright, and there we go. We have a really good foundation for our mountains, which we'll be adding next. Alright everyone, I hope you are enjoying your time here today. Before we move on, I want to quickly mention that if you are interested in learning more from me, that I have a Patreon page that has hundreds of tutorials, and I live stream new tutorials for pastels and colored pencils every Tuesday and Thursday. I even offer private one-on-one lessons. So if any of that interests you, I will have a link below in the video description for you to check that out. Anyways, let's get back to our project. Okay, so to start off our mountains, we're going to do them in 2 layers actually. We're going to have one layer of mountains that are kind of in the distant background, and then we'll have another layer of mountains that's closer up and has more detail and a little bit more texture. So to start off with our mountains that are going to be further in the distance, we're going to use a really light color, and in fact we're going to use the same color we used in the sky, and that's the powder blue. What we're going to do is we're just going to kind of create really shallow triangles, and by shallow I mean they don't stand up too high. Just going to create a couple little triangles like that of varying heights. So make one a little bit bigger. Let's make this one the big one, and maybe a couple small ones that shoulder it like that, and then maybe, I don't know, maybe another one right there, and then maybe we'll have a really big one kind of coming off the page over here. So very, very simple little triangles, nothing at all complex. So very small triangles. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take the cyan color and very, very gently going to use an edge of it, and we're just going to draw the very top edge of our mountains here. Just the very, very top. There we go. And what we're going to do is we're going to take our little blender and we're just going to pull it down. Pull those edges down into the light colors there. Make sure you grab a hold of that edge there. That cyan edge of the mountain. Yeah, just grab that with the sponge and gently pull it down into the paper. Just like that. That way the top edge of the mountain is the darkest, and then it just kind of fades into nothing near the bottom. So something like that. Very, very easy. And now it's time to add the close-up mountains. And to do that, first color we're going to use is the cool gray number 6. This is one of our darkest colors in the set. And let's see, we're going to create the biggest mountain, let's just say like right about here. And same thing, just create a nice shallow triangle. Something like that. Just a little triangle, nothing too difficult. And let's make a smaller one next to it over here. There we go. A little bit of unevenness. And then maybe one more right here. There we go. And same thing, we're just going to take our blender here and we're just going to smooth it out. Let it fade right into the paper. Pull it all the way down. There we go. And again, we're going to use some of our powder blue, and we're going to work on the face of the mountain that points to the left. So what you're going to do, hopefully by this point you have a smooth side of your pastel. If not, it's okay, you can just use the edge of the rounded part. And we're just going to kind of push into the dark color there, something like that, and create a bit of an edge. So imagine a zigzag line coming down the mountain like that, just kind of random, and we're just going to push our blue into the mountain like this. And on the dark side of the mountain, let's go ahead and add a new color, the dark violet. So I'm going to add a little bit of dark violet to the other side of the mountain. And then grab the blender. We're not going to blend the color out completely. We're going to kind of leave a little bit of texture there, and then as it comes further down the mountain, that's where we're going to soften the texture. So just soften it a little bit, but leave quite a bit of texture there, and then blend it out as you get down towards the bottom of the mountain. So something like that. There we go. And of course we want to give our mountains a bit of snow, so we're just going to grab the white and basically do the same exact technique. Just going to come up to the top of the mountain, highlight some of that with the white, leaving some texture there. Maybe have a little bit of snow right there. A little bit of snow over here as well. And then we're going to go back to our cool gray number 6 and just add a little bit of shadow to our mountain. And we're going to do this on the right side of the mountain. So just a little bit of extra texture, a little bit of extra value there. Give our mountains, you know, some depth to stand out against the sky. There we go. And if you want, you can even give them a touch of the yellow zinc, just to give them a bit of sunshine on the face of the mountain. There we go, just a touch of sunshine. And then back to the blender, I'm just going to smooth that color out a little bit. Now up towards the top, like I said, we want to keep quite a bit of the texture there, so we're just going to gently soften the texture. And then as we get down to the bottom, we'll just smooth it out completely. So very, very simple mountains. And then down at the bottom, we'll just blend that out. Just like that. And for the final bit, we'll just add a little bit of grass kind of leading up the foot of the mountain. So for the grass, we're just going to use a little bit of the leaf green, and we're just going to kind of continue our mountains down into here. Just give it a little bit of grass. Just moving right into the mountains there. Something like that. So a touch of the green, and then we're going to also use a little bit of the cobalt blue right into the grass. Our scenery is very blue, and so that's going to affect the color of the grass. So we're just going to give the grass a little bit of blue, just like that. And then we're going to take our blender just to smooth it out very gently, leading right up to the mountains. Just let those colors fade together. And maybe just for some fun, we'll add a couple little birds into the back using the cool gray. So using the sharpest edge of the cool gray, I'm just going to sketch in a few little birds. Just a couple upside down U's. So a few little birds there, just flying in the distance. And here we are, everyone, our finished painting. I hope you enjoyed following along on this project. I would love to see your mountains. So when you share it on social media, be sure to tag it with hashtag Peaceful Pastels, and I'll choose one to be presented in the next episode. Thank you again for watching. Make sure you are subscribed to catch the next episode. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up and give it a share for me, and I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll see you next time. Take care. Peace.